person available.
Wow.
I like this.
Atop the hill is Steph Curry. 31 points would not normally be enough to move you to the top of the hill. However, it's an old Michael Jordan style 31, where the team doesn't break 100 and you get 30, which is, adjusted for inflation, it's like scoring 40 essentially on a regular game. Dealing with that defense, dealing with Amen Thompson, all of it. And I thought the back-breaking shots, I thought Steph had this, of all the 10 playoff games, I thought Kawhi had the single best game. I thought Steph had the second best game, all things considered. Wow. So, for the time being, Steph, his first time ever.
Quality hill.
Atop King of the Hill.
Well, the sheer fact that this is the first time ever just shows you how ridiculous the whole thing is. I skip a lot of these for the NBA. I do it for the NFL on my, football channel. JWL Sports, but I don't have the patience for basketball personally. But as I was kind of trying to skip through to try to find some interesting clips, I saw that Steph was at the top, and I'm like, what? Wow. So I gotta give credit where credit is due. Nick, definitely, little hat tip to you for saying the obvious. Especially if we're looking at it just based off of, right now this playoff run, then if you watch all these games and see the impact that Steph Curry had on the game, and just, man, so the shots that he makes, if you never saw Steph play, you would just say, like, that's lucky, right? Like, that's probably the craziest thing. If we really had to boil down Steph's game to just, like, a sentence or so, or like a statement, to like just a word, it would be luck. In the sense of, not that he's obviously lucky, but like that's what it feels like. When you watch the shots that he takes, if you just didn't know who Steph was, if it was the first time you ever watched him play, you'd be like, oh, that is the luckiest shot ever. Seriously, it's something you would say when you're playing ball in the streets, when you're either like actually in the streets, or whether you're at a playground, no matter where you are, with your friends, in a game, college, it doesn't matter. You just be like, that's so lucky. Like you just have the feeling of like, oh my God, that's such luck. It feels like every shot's essentially kind of like a wild bank shot. And yet he makes them with such regularity that it really does break your brain. And it's why no matter how much, and I forget which Rocket player it was, but they showed when he made one of his crazy deep threes, not his one main three, when the commentator was like, the geometrical, the whatever he said, something about geometry, I remember. But one of the shots that Steph made, they zoomed in and showed his face, and it was just kind of like so frustrated. And like, that's the thing. I forget who it was, but like, you can't react that way when you're playing Steph, because you have to understand, like, that is Steph. And so if you're still kind of reacting like, oh my God, how did he just make that? Well, then you actually don't understand who Steph Curry is, because he makes it. And I get it on one side, if you're playing defense again, and part of you is kind of just like, oh my God, I can't believe he made that. But it's also kind of got to be like, it's no different than him making a layup, than him making just, a 10-foot jump shot, a free throw, like it just is what it is. You wouldn't roll your eyes at that. You would just be like, all right, come on, let's get, we're on offense. Give me the ball. It's just back at it. But like Steph to this day is still making shots, still making plays that you're just still kind of just like your mind breaks, which is why I say it's like, it feels like it's luck. Like, it's just like, that's so lucky. I get immediately brought back to being like 12 years old, playing with my friends, and you're just like yelling at your one friend who keeps making lucky shots. You're like, oh my God, you're so lucky. Can't believe you made, oh, that's not, oh, get out of here. That was so luck. And then the friend always just tries to act like, nah, man, it's skill. Nah, I do this all the time. And it's like, yeah, sure. But like, Steph literally does it all the time. And it's amazing. It's amazing that he's still playing at this high of a level. And when you look at all these other names, all the other people out there, Tatum, Brown, I was thinking about this today and yesterday, actually, when you're seeing the Denver Nuggets kind of struggle. It doesn't feel like the Nuggets are going to win the championship. It's possible, but it seems like it would be a heck of a grind. And we see also Giannis. It doesn't feel like the Bucks are gonna win it either. And it is actually pretty remarkable. And I know the Celtics definitely have a great chance to win it all, and so then that would be back-to-back for them. But when you really look at the career of Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors as a whole, and then even LeBron's to an extent, although obviously he's jumped around. Like, I just remember when Giannis won, his first ring. Everybody was like, this is the start of his run. And they were comparing it to like, oh, and I forget the exact age, but it was like, oh, LeBron won his first ring when he was 26. And then he went on a run. And like, I just remember Brew specifically like, Giannis is, going to go on his LeBron run now. And then same thing with Jokic. Like, Jokic wins a ring and everyone's like, oh my God, he's the greatest player in the history of the universe, best player in the NBA, better than all these other dudes, and they're going to win. And it's like, they haven't really, let's be real here, like, they haven't been close to winning multiple rings. Like, that's just a reality. And everyone just takes for granted Steph Curry, and again, LeBron to an extent as well, but definitely Steph since he was with the same team. They just act like it was so easy because they made it look easy, and that like, oh, all you do is just have to build a good team, or once you win one ring, like, it's easy to win a couple more. And it's like, obviously not. And the sheer fact that the Warriors have been truly dominant for the last like 10 years or so, we just kind of take for granted how unique and special it is. And when we see Giannis is an awesome player, we see Jokic is an awesome player, and yet both of those players haven't even been remotely close to winning multiple rings. And yet you had Steph win, one ring with, I mean, like, it's just been next. And every year it's like, a true contender, outside of a couple down years, of course, but true contenders, and not just kind of like, well, this is, Steph, or this is a great team, so of course they're contenders, like they do with Giannis and the Bucks, like they do with Jokic and the Nuggets. Like, I mean, like, true bona fide, like, this is an NBA champion contender, no question about it. And even in the years that they try to downplay it, like when they beat the Celtics, it's like, yeah, what are they going to say now, right? It's good night, put a ring on my finger, let's go. Which is why this year, and I said this months ago, if Steph and the Warriors win, it would be the most remarkable story in the NBA. Since there's so many teams and there's so many 7-game series, obviously, throughout the playoffs, I always try to figure out kind of like, what do I want as a person? What do I want as a human? What do I want as an NBA fan? What do I want now, since this is a newer channel? What do I want from just like a conversation perspective? What do I think is the most interesting? And it's like, I think the Celtics repeating would be interesting. And Jason Tatum, I think it's kind of interesting that people also kind of downplay how great he is. And just the Celtics as a whole, when you think about it, like, people are still talking more about the Warriors and the Lakers than the Celtics, the reigning champions. I find it fascinating that players like Jokic and Giannis get endless heaps of praise, and yet, like I said, they haven't even remotely been close to winning 2 rings. It's not even an opinion; that is just a literal fact. And then again, we got the cast of all of the other characters: Ant, Luka, etc. And, I think if Ant won, it would be very similar. If the Timberwolves ended up winning a ring and Ant won, people would be like, this is one of the greatest achievements ever in the history of the NBA, to win at that age, to play that way. He could win the next 3 now, like, people were already like, can they three-peat, right? Like, they'll go on and on and on. How many rings does he need to win, etc., etc. And it would just be kind of like a repeat what we already saw with Giannis, what we already saw with Jokic. And it would be kind of like been there, done that. And in a lot of ways, the same thing with OKC and SGA, but it's just like, if LeBron wins, it's going to be this whole thing about his age, and LeBron and Michael Jordan never, like, conversations that we've already had so many times. But if Steph wins, I think that will actually, just like I said that his game breaks everyone's brains, I think if Steph and the Warriors win a ring, it will literally break the NBA's mind. They'll just be like, I don't understand. Like, I know we all say Steph is great, and everyone always says, oh, he's the best shooter ever. But we never actually talk about the Warriors, and especially Steph Curry, like he really, truly is one of the all-time greatest. Everyone can concede that he's an amazing shooter, because you would be out of your mind to... You can't... There's nothing that you could say against that, right? Like, you would literally just be the biggest clown ever. But, like, people still don't really... I mean, think about how much... They've praised the Giannis's, the Jokic's, more than they really have Steph. Steph had like a 2-year window when he was like the MVP and all of that, where he got a lot of praise, more because he was just so popular, and he kind of just like took over in terms of popularity. You had people of all ages, you had a ton of girls, young, like little kids and stuff. So like, it was easy for the media and the NBA to put their arms around it. He's a nice guy. He has his own little kids, his own little daughter, like kind of hanging on his lap during his like post games and stuff. And so people really loved that. The moms of the league, loved it and all of that, but it was a different level of popularity that people really talked about. And again, just try to remember when Giannis won and when Jokic won, like it was just like game changing. International players, these players are unstoppable. They're gonna go on massive runs. They're gonna win multiple rings. Like people were talking about the Denver Nuggets again. Like I swear, three-peating. Just go back in time after they won their first ring. It was like they're gonna win 2, 3, and beyond. And same thing with the Bucks. They're gonna win 2, 3, and beyond. Just the momentum. Heck, even Jalen Brunson, everybody was getting behind and was just celebrating and elevating some of the things that he done. And again, those players deserve praise. They deserve credit without a shadow of a doubt. But it is so fascinating that Steph Curry's like true reign in the NBA was downplayed. And the way how I know that I'm right is because Nick himself just said, oh, the first time ever that he was at the King of the Hill. And that's insane. That's actually absolutely positively insane. And Steph Curry would not get the media attention and the amount of love that he even got if he was like not as nice, not as charming, wasn't living that kind of more like open married life, you know, playing golf and stuff, having cute little kids, you know, again, being like a father and stuff like that. If he had a little bit more lukewarm personality, a little bit more reserved, a little bit less like kind of out there, then I think he would get even less attention, right? They would all say, oh, he's the best shooter and he's a great shooter, but it would be like, it would end there completely. But the reason why he's so popular, like I said, is more because of his personality, more because of almost like his celebrity than who he is actually as a player. Whereas Giannis and Jokic, they obviously don't have that same level of celebrity in terms of, you know, what they put out there in the world. And yet I would say the NBA world treats them higher and elevated. So it's a fascinating thing. And a lot of people have said this is because of the whole Nike thing. I'll be honest, I don't have strong views on that one way or the other, but I made a previous video talking about the Warriors and talking about that, about, you know, Steph Curry and the weird attention that Steph gets. And a lot of people were all talking about it's because of Nike, it's because of Nike, it's because of Nike. I don't have strong feelings about that. That's something that I would like to, you know, do further research. I believe that there's probably some truth to that, especially things like with the Olympics and some of the issues that they've had in the past. But like, I don't know how Nike affects FS1 and ESPN, and like that's where I guess personally I'm a little confused how that has some of the influence in that. But like I said, I don't really know, but it is a weird thing. I think it's beyond just some issue with like, you know, marketing and Nike. I think people just weirdly pick and choose who they want to elevate, who they want to be. You know, some people try to claim that Steph has never been the face of the league, and I'm like, that's just objectively and subjectively wrong. Like, I don't know, man. Maybe it's because I lived in California during peak Warriors and peak Steph Curry. You know, I was literally out there, but like, it's just Steph Curry has been one of the most transformative players in the NBA of the in my entire lifetime of watching basketball. And he's definitely the only player there that actually fundamentally changed the game of basketball. And yet he's still not really discussed in that way. And so if he won a ring here, it would force everyone to reconcile with Steph's career, with who Steph Curry is. If he continues to go off and he leads the Warriors to another ring, it will without a shadow of a doubt be one of the greatest stories, one of the greatest seasons, and one of the greatest career I am him moments in all of sports. And I'm not I try not to just give like bold, exaggerated claims for the sake of videos. That is how I truly feel, especially as I already mapped out when you compare it to these other up-and-coming players who were supposed to take over the league, like Giannis, like Jokic, because there would be no excuse for why they could not do it. And then what are we going to say? Steph was able to do it because Jimmy Butler's too good, right? Like, Steph's riding the coattails of Jimmy Butler now, of Draymond Green, right? Like, they're in their deep 30s. They're not 28, like, because of Kevon Looney. All right, like, because of pods, Steve Kerr, oh, well, anyone can win with Steve Kerr. Like, there's no way you could explain it away. And when you watch how some of these games unfold, you're like, only Steph Curry can do what Steph Curry just did. So, it would from my viewpoint, it would be one of the most remarkable stories. And you know, the problem is it's hard, right? There's still many more series and many more games to go, so you can't get too ahead of yourself. And you know, just because that story would be so amazing, I fear that if he doesn't win a ring, again, it's used kind of against him. It's used to kind of pull him down a little bit. Whereas we got LeBron literally getting behind Luka, putting up like 40-point games, and it's like, you know, I mean, seriously, let's say the Lakers ended up winning the championship, and LeBron's averaging like 20s, low 20s. He has some games where he puts up like 19 points, and Luka's averaging 35, 40 points a game. Is that really the same? Do we really count that ring the same? I think we know that answer. And it would be a remarkable thing for LeBron, but, you know, it's not quite the same. Let's be serious. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Steph Curry being the king of the hill, the best player, the best playoff player, according to Nick Wright? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.